HLF awarded a grant of £2 million towards the restoration of the mansion, and that followed a previous award of £3 million to actually support the park itself. And the reason why we support it, because we felt it was a really incredibly important site, a real gem in Redbridge. There's nothing like it as well. It was important historically, dating back from the 17th century. But in addition to that, what we really came through when we were assessing the application was a very good partnership between the community and the council, and the way that both were working together to look at the best options for that site and for the long-term future of the mansion. So we were really impressed, and that was one of the key things why we supported this project.
A lot of the timber in the roof and so on, they've used anything and everything that they could find. There's short bits of timber, long bits of timber, fat bits of timber, thin bits of timber, there's everything. In the top floor partitions, there's actually poles, you know, they're just poles that have had the bark taken off them. They're not been regularised or anything like that.
And they've actually constructed that roof without any nails. And it's actually gone together with mortise and tenon joints and no nails. It's quite interesting the way they've done it. It must have been a hell of a labour-intensive job when they actually did it.
Almost there. 2 inches. Yep.
It does seem that every time that we've opened something up that there's been something there that we've not quite expected. I mean, the plaster on the second floor was in a worse condition than we anticipated, so the plaster now has been stripped off the internal walls. That's to say the partition walls, which was not fully anticipated how much work would have to be done.
All of us, I mean, are used to working in buildings like this before. We've done sort of many jobs like this. I love the old buildings itself. You unearth all sorts of things. The thing downstairs, the table down there, they've got bits and pieces. Modern stuff's just modern, isn't it? There's nothing to it, there's no character.
Normal job, you know. 6 years here, so it's not any difficulties, not too difficult, but you know, it's okay. So I want to probably stay until this job finished, you know, and we'll see later. I don't want to drop now, you know, and just go away, you know.
And to keep some of the character up of the building, we've taken all the levels and straight edges away from the plasterers. So they've got to work totally freehand and just by sight, so they can keep everything into proportion and try to retain some of the old character of the building. This will be troweled off when it's a bit drier, and it will come up smooth like that. It's not historically correct, obviously, that there's a steel beam in there that's got to come out. So what they're doing is putting new steelwork in, but the new steelwork will actually be hidden within the floor space, so you won't see that drop steel. But to get it out, we have to prop the existing walls up. when the boiler comes, we'll be having a crane out in the piping area, and we'll be swinging it in over the top of the porte-cogere and then down into the basement area. It's quite a heavy load. The boiler itself weighs in excess of 3.5 tonnes. Once it's lowered down into the lower level, we just won't be able to move it again, so we've got to position it quite accurately.
We've seen it as a ruin for so many years. To see it suddenly come to life again means an awful lot to all of us. I in particular have lived in this borough since I was a small child, so I've known of the mansion for 40, 50 years, and so it does mean a great deal to all of us to see it blossom and come alive again, and allow the new members of Redbridge Borough to see it and enjoy it.
We're at Valentines. We're doing planting, and we are doing the putting the wall gardens back as they were years and years ago, with all new rose gardens and the petia gardens and the fruit gardens, and doing numerous pieces of work in the park, like the walkways and things with new yew trees and hedges, and work on the ponds. It's lovely to see things, things being put back to how they were originally.
The structure we're looking at here is the dovecot, which is the main structure in the middle with the octagonal arch, which you can building that you can hardly see. You can see a brick arch in there, and a dovecot, as the name would imply, was for keeping doves in. And the lower level buildings, the lean-to structures, were obviously built onto it at some later stage. It's in an incredibly bad conditions, which is why it's scaffolded. Round the other side there are timber shawls, raking shawls that are supporting the building. Inside the whole thing is strengthened with a scaffold structure, and the feeling at the moment is that if you start taking bits down to repair it, then without putting a lot more propping in, the thing will simply fall to bits. The best part of it is the dovecot itself, the octagonal structure at the top, and ideally if you could simply jack that up and rebuild everything underneath it, that would be the perfect solution, but that can't be done, so there's going to be a vast amount of propping going in there, and then we're going to retain bricklayers, with especially small trowels to squeeze in and out of the scaffolding, doing very careful taking down of brickwork and rebuilding it section by section to eventually restore the structure to something like it used to be.
I've been asked on this first project to do the preparation work on this grotto. Cleaning off all the old debris, vegetation, soil, clay, mud, muck, spiders' webs, shells, chestnuts.
Because the level of the horse pond is now lower than the level of this pond, therefore a natural flow through the mouth here from the horse pond is no longer possible. What we're going to do is we're going to take water by pumping it from the fish pond. All of this will have been built onto what was originally a natural drainage system, which is what they tend to do. If you had water flowing somewhere, they just enlarged it, changed the way the water flowed into it from surface water drains, land drains, etc., and that then made it an ornamental feature of something that was essential.
It looked very sad and very miserable. It had great big trees growing out the top of it, and lots of ivy, I think there were stingy nettles. And yeah, it looked very sad, and I kind of thought, oh my god, how am I ever going to do anything with this miserable looking building? It really needs sorting out. So it's quite, and it's a big structure, so it was quite daunting. Well, I've come in really as a shell specialist, and also a specialist on the glass, which is this blue slag glass, which you can't get anymore. And I've had to source all the shells. There wasn't really much evidence of the shells that were here, because everyone's come and picked them off. But there were little indentations, and I could tell what sort of shell had been there. And I then had to go to Cornwall to get